Okay folks, so we're going to have a wee look at a short walk cycle tutorial over a series of various different videos. To get you started, what we're going to do is initially just build the scene and bring in the 8 separate images that we need for the walk cycle. So having opened up Flash, we're going to create a new document. We're just going to select ActionScript 3.0. Even though we're not doing any coding, this is what we're going to work with. Okay, so when I click on that, my workspace appears and all my windows kind of pop up and light up. I'm working in classic mode. You can change it to however you prefer to use, but that's what I'm more used to. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is set up the workspace. So on our properties tab over here, we're going to adjust that. If you can't find that, remember any of these floating panels can all be found under window. So we're going to change the frames per second first of all to 8. That'll become a bit more self-explanatory later on. And we're going to set up the dimensions of our workspace is 800 by 450 to give us a 16.9 ratio for the video sequence. Okay, so if I zoom out, you will now see the workspace kind of at a widescreen ratio. So we're going to begin by creating 2 layers, a background and a foreground. The background is going to be my sky, so I'm just going to name that sky. And I'm going to use my rectangle tool. I'm going to begin just by selecting a kind of blue sky colour, which is actually going to disappear in a minute anyway, as you'll see, but I'm going to just draw that rectangle to fit the overall size of my document. Okay. Now I'm going to select this. I've got to my colour palette where I'm going to change the solid colour to being a linear gradient. Now this is defaulted back to the most recent gradient that I've had in the program for an earlier tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change these colours. At the moment the one with the black arrowhead on top of it is the current colour that I'll be changing. So I'm going to choose, in fact I'll choose white for that. I'm going to select this one and I'm going to choose a kind of blue colour to try and get my sky blue. Okay, now you'll notice at the moment that the gradient is running horizontally when I want it to run vertically. Underneath the free transform tool you have this gradient transform tool, and when you click on the object you'll notice you get a couple of different gizmos. This gizmo here will allow you to rotate the gradient, and this gizmo here is going to allow you to concentrate the gradient like so. So I'm happy with that, so I can just click off, and now we're going to lock that layer and repeat the same process, this time for a ground. I'll call that ground. I'm going to get my rectangle tool, and what's going to happen is it's going to default and fill the colour of this ground to be the most recent colour that I've used, which I'm going to want to change. So I'll repeat the same process for the sky, select a colour palette, and we use 2 shades of green. Okay, something like that. Again, use my gizmo tool, my gradient transform tool, just to rotate that and condense it. Okay, it just adds a wee bit more depth to the page. And further from that, I'm going to use my selection tool and give this rectangle a slight camber again, a bit more depth to the scene. So I'll lock both of those layers. Now we're going to be working with 8 separate images that make up this walk cycle, so that's going to take up a total of 8 frames. What we're going to do to begin is make sure that both the sky and the ground level last for the 8 frames that we need them to. So if I right click on the sky layer and insert frame, that will extend it over 8 frames, and the same with the ground, insert frame, and there we go. I'm going to generate a new layer, and I'm going to call this layer template, and then what we're going to need is the files that make up the walk cycle. So I'm going to source those, and to find those I'll just go to File, Import, and Import to Library. Okay, now it's just taking me into Explorer where I can browse through my windows. I'd already downloaded these images. You'll need to do the same. Depending on where you're learning this tutorial from, you should find them on your Moodle course. So I've went into the folder. I'm going to select all of these images and hit open. Now it looks like nothing's happened, but what's actually happened if we go into the library tab is that all the images have appeared here. Now before we do anything, what we're going to do is we're just going to convert this blank keyframe that has been stretched across 8 frames into a series of blank keyframes. So if we go to convert to blank keyframes, that has now got 8 separate blank keyframes or placeholders for these 8 images to pop in place. Now I'm going to select the first one, and with my library I'm going to grab the first image. I'm going to pop it roughly in the centre of the page. Okay, not on the top of the grass, but just in a wee bit, again, just to give a wee bit more realism. And you'll notice when the character starts moving, if you try and line it up with the top of the grass, it's going to seem like he's hopping or jumping off of the ground. I'm just going to zoom in on the character to make things a wee bit easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the bounding box that we've generated on this character that we've done in a previous tutorial. Now the work that we put into making sure that these characters were all aligned centrally with the same size of box is going to make things a lot easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using our onion skin outlines, which is going to allow us to be able to see the previous outline of the frame beforehand, and in turn allow us to match up the placement, making it a lot easier for us to make sure that the model or the character is walking correctly and that there's going to be no jumping or movements. You can also change the outline colour for the layer if it makes it slightly easier for you to do so, or for to see it. At the moment it's on orange. I'll change that, maybe make it black, which might make it a bit easier for you to see on the screen. Now I'm going to click on my second blank keyframe, and I'm ready now to put my second image in place. So go back to the library, grab the second image and drop that in place. Okay, try and get as close to it as possible, and then you can just use the arrow keys to maneuver it and make sure that it's bang on top. So I'm going to repeat the process, go into the third frame, bring it in, fourth, fifth frame, finally the 8th frame. Okay, now running 8 frames per second, that means that we're roughly just under 1 second of animation. So when we play the animation, this walk cycle will loop roughly 1 second, 0.9 of a second. Okay, and that's just playing through all of these 8 frames. So if we go to control test scene, there's our character walking on the spot. Okay, now that's the first part of this tutorial. What we're going to be looking at in the next tutorial is adding onto the layers and also spreading the frames out so that we can have it running at a standard 24 frames per second for output for the final video. Okay, thank you.